Welcome to the Creative Brew, helping you keep your creative juices brewing. We're giving out chunks of insight, motivation, and practicality for your creative journey. My next partner is Elevate Coffee Trading, and if you appreciate specialty coffee, enjoy outdoor adventure, and love helping elevate the lives of children around the world, then you're going to love Elevate Coffee Trading. Their mission is to extract hope through love, coffee, and adventures. There's free shipping in the United States, and every bag of coffee helps sponsor health and education for children in coffee-producing countries and in areas of need in the United States. You can use promo code ELEVATE21 on your next order, and you can follow their journey on social media at Elevate Coffee Trading. Or you can visit online at elevatecoffeetrading.com, and let's start extracting hope together. And this episode is brought to you by Baba Coffee, smuggling good vibes. Baba roasts their coffee beans each week and only offers the freshest coffee. They have espressos, lattes, cappuccinos, pour over, or drip coffee. You can try their cold brew coffee, nitro cold brew, or bulletproof coffee, and boba milk teas. They also have a wide assortment of delicious food. I would suggest you try the avocado toast, mimosas, wine, or beer. On the weekends, you can check out some great music like the Soto Six and food like Eliza the Shelf and others over the weekend, every Friday and Saturday, beginning at 6 p.m. You can check out everything they got going on Facebook and Instagram at Baba Coffee. Welcome to a new episode of the Creative Brew, giving you insights on your creative journey. This is it's gonna be a cool episode because it's always good, like sort of bringing on fellow creatives, obviously, but like being able to help people that's been former alumni with just going through the art programs, at Cleveland High and so forth. So it's always cool, like being able to sort of see what people are doing and, seeing how, maybe for them, what their creative journey is like. I know for everyone that's been in the creative field, it's always sort of sprinkled in with, ups and downs. And I think that's the challenge of any creator, but being able to make it work. For them. So without further ado, I'll let Abby sort of introduce herself, share her origin story, and then we'll go about this episode. So this is gonna be a really cool episode. She's got some books that she'll be promoting, she'll be showing, but this is really just sort of seeing where her life is at, how creativity fuels her, what she's doing, and everything in between. So this will be a cool episode. So without further ado, I will introduce Abby to the show. Welcome.
Thank you.
And, it's always good to see an old face, so to speak. So it's always good.
Yeah. Hi. Oh my gosh, it's always funny because I've worked with thousands of writers over the years, and if you ask a writer to tell you about themselves, like we will talk about our characters all day long till we are blue in the face, but you ask us about ourselves and suddenly we get real awkward. We're like, I'm a person, but like not an elf person, like a human person. Elf people don't exist, except I think I might have seen one when I was 6. And do you like dragons? And then they just imagine, like the conversation just veers into something fantasy related. You can tell I hang out with a lot of fantasy writers. But actually, so that's my creative medium is actually creative writing. I always say I started off in visual writing, but I went to the dark side. I struggled for years to find what my medium was. I mean, we went to high school together. We went through the same fine arts program. We had the most amazing background as young kids in fine arts. And I went to college. I went to East Tennessee State University. I got my degree in fine arts and just floundered trying to figure out what medium fit my voice. And it wasn't until years later I became an art educator. I taught at Cleveland High School as well, but I never quite figured it out for myself. I was really good at teaching people how to love art, but I wasn't ever the best at, figuring out what fit my own voice. And I eventually, I was in my 30s when I figured it out, but it was creative writing. I had a girlfriend who wanted to write a book, and I was like, well, you're doing it. It looks pretty cool. Like, I was good at group projects. Maybe I'll write a book too. We can write books together. And here we are, years later, with a degree and background in visual arts, and I switched teams.
Yeah.
So
You know
I
what?
went to
Yeah,
words.
you sort of bring up a cool point because like I said you've been writing for a while and definitely get into the
Mhm.
creative writing medium, which can be, I mean, for a lot of people can be tough. I know I find myself, I've got a book that I'm working on, sort of like a sci-fi, series, and it's been a pet project of mine for some years. So I may have to get some insights from you about this, but
You're talking to the
um,
right person.
yeah. So I mean, for a lot of maybe aspiring writers, there's always like a level of resistance. I didn't know what is your
Mhm.
process on like even like starting out. I know obviously we'll talk a little bit about your book, but like just starting out from like just a outline or just a concept of the book. Like how's your process on that?
So in the writing world, we have a spectrum, right, of planners. And it goes from pantsing to plotting. Like that, those are the two ends of the spectrum. So I don't know if you've ever heard either one of those two terms. Pantsers are the people who just they open up their computer, they open up their notebook, they start at page one, and they're like, "I'm gonna write a story today. I'm writing a story about a guy named Jim, and let's see, what is Jim doing right now?" And then they just start typing, right? And they fly by the seat of their pants, which is why they're called pantsers. Then you have those really meticulous plotters, the people who will outline indefinitely and never actually get to the writing of the story sometimes because they have to have every little tiny thing in the backstory and the detail and how does the world work, and they have to have it all laid out before they get started. Most people fall somewhere on the spectrum in between, and that's definitely where I fall. And over the years I've learned how my brain works. I've learned the questions I need to ask myself before I get started, what I need to have in place, and what I can discover along the way. And that's actually one of the things that I do at work. I do a lot of content marketing for Dabble Writer, which is a novel writing software company. And we talk to writers all day long about how to get their ideas down on the page. And I'm currently planning a 5-day plotting challenge to help people like very loosely outline their books to get started. And but I tend to use, I mean, if we want to get like real writery, nerdy sort of things, I use in these books, they sit on my desk. Actually, Save the Cat is around here somewhere. Blueprint for a Book by Jenny Nash is probably my go-to. Jenny Nash was actually my very first book coach who taught me how to write. And this is her process that she uses for planning. Libby Hawker, another friend of mine, she wrote a book called Take Off Your Pants, How to Outline, but it's meant for pantsers, people who are not used to planning a book ahead of time. These are two really easy ins if you don't know how to outline, because let's face it, outlining a book, a lot of people think it's going to take away their creativity. It sucks them right back into like Mrs. Lemon's 11th grade English class. Sorry, Linda, if you're listening, but you had a red pen and there's power in that red pen. And sometimes that red pen takes away our creativity. So when you get siphoned back into, you know, this mindset of there's a right or a wrong answer, sometimes that really stifles where you're going. And outlining tends to make people feel like there's right or wrong answers when it doesn't have to be. The outline is purely for you as the writer to figure out your story. And the the more you can figure out before you write it, the more you can figure out the holes, you can figure out the problems so that you have less revisions to do. And I think that's really the point, is it makes you a more efficient writer. So if your goal is to write a whole series of books, if your goal is to write, you know, 10 books and get them out there, or 40 books or 50 books, the the more you can understand how to outline, really just the faster you're going to be able to get your stories into the world. That's kind of how I see it.
Yeah,
But
that's great. That's great.
yeah.
Yeah, I know I find myself sort of going back and forth. I'd written got a bunch of pages I've written, but I really didn't. Um, I had the overall sort of plot in my mind, but typing it out like there, I had some gaps in there that I was like, okay, I
Hmm.
need to fill these in. So I'm going back through and like actually working on my outline in the plot so I can go back and like plug in the holes in what I've written already. And so yeah, I just want to get your take on that. And then like I said, that's some cool book suggestions too as well. Yeah, that's something that I've
Do you
been.
know how hard it is for me not to flip this interview right now and be like, so tell me about your story. Where are your holes? Let's break this down.
Abby, that might be for another episode.
You bring me back on to book coach you.
Yeah, no, I know. It's you're gonna have to book coach me because yeah, it's definitely a project like I would love to get out. But I was like, I know there's some things that's missing in there structurally and like trying to make everything sort of right. But
Hold together.
yeah, so characters and everything, story, I've already sort of created. And I think I've been creating these are actually characters that I started developing like when I was back in like middle school. And
Hmm.
but they've
That's
sort of evolved.
amazing.
Yeah, they sort of evolved over the years into what it is now. But yeah, it's something I was like, I have to like for me, I was like, I have to get this out because it's gonna drive me crazy. If I
Hmm.
keep this in my brain.
You are not the only person I've ever heard say that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, that's one of my pet projects. That's something I do want to get out. So I definitely maybe asking you to be my be my book coach.
I got you.
For so for a lot of people, they because I got a lot of friends, a lot of creators, they like, okay, I want to write this book,
Yeah.
and but they feel like, well, there's a book similar to mine or something like that, and I always feel like there's an audience for everyone. What do you feel about that?
Oh, okay. So you're touching on one of my favorite things to talk about right now. So in the writing world, you have these things called comps, comparative titles. Now, librarians call them read-alikes, right? But it's exactly what you're talking about right now. I want to write this book, and it's very much like X, right? And that stops some people. And it stopped me while I was writing my first book because I started writing this book about a little girl whose dad was the librarian of this like magic library where book characters came out of the books, right? And interacted with her. And like Mr. Toad was her tutor and Mr. Darcy was like her babysitter. And, it was this kind of crazy thing. And as I'm writing the book, I pick up another book called Story Thieves and I start reading it, and I'm like, son of a mother, I like this idea better. And Jenny Nash, who was my book coach at the time, was like, whoa, 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 brakes on that, baby. She's like, first of all, it just because you like that idea doesn't mean that what you're doing is going to be too derivative. Every story out there has probably already been written at some point. She's like, I mean, think of all the people writing all the books and all the tales to tell, but no one has lived your life. No one has read Story Thieves with your brain. She's like, you are taking that idea and you are incorporating it and letting it inspire what it is that you're writing. And in the end, she's like, you're going to be surprised. It's going to read very, very differently. She's like, I want you to keep going. So I did. And I wrote the book. And in the end, it was nothing like Story Thieves. But Story Thieves was my comp. And this is really important because when you go to sell your book and market it, guess what you really want? You want comps. You don't want to be that book that no one else has ever written anything like it ever in the history of man, because guess what? That's hard as hell to sell. And what you want to know is what books are sitting next to yours on the shelf, because books are not a zero-sum game. If somebody buys my book and they love it and it's a lot like your book, guess what they're probably going to buy next? Your book.
Yeah.
So don't let that stop you. And as a matter of fact, I will go so far as to say, I think there are two different kinds of comps that you need to look at when you're writing. you have the comps that you need at the end when you go to market your book. And if you pitch agents and you go the traditional route, they all want to know what your comps are. They have to be recent, they have to be relevant, all written within the last 3 to 5 years. They want to know how they're going to sell your book. That's how agents are thinking. Agents aren't in the business of writing books, agents are in the business of selling books. And that's how they're thinking. But you, as the writer, can have comps that inspire your books. And that's where I start almost every single time. Because to me, if you can get a magic trio of comps together, you understand the vibe of your book. You understand, like, just you could hold it almost in your hands.
Hmm.
So, the book of mine that came out last year, I started off wanting to write a book that read like Charlotte's Web meets The Borrowers by Mary Norton. I don't know if you know that one. It's a classic British children's story about these little people that are just a couple inches tall that live in the walls of a house and they borrow things from the big humans. Oh my God, I loved it. Studio Ghibli did The Secret World of Arrietty,
Oh
which
yeah.
was the movie based on The Borrowers.
Okay.
So Arrietty was the borrower character. So anyway, I was really wanting to write this book, and I knew I wanted to write it about my barnyard. I knew I wanted it to have animal characters in it, kind of like Charlotte's Web.
Hmm.
I had these two little brothers, twin brothers, Scratch and Peck, I called them. I got their names off of a chicken feed bag. But I didn't have anything other than like these characters and these two comps. And it wasn't until I figured out my third comp that the story started to come together. So Charlotte's Web meets The Borrowers meets The Dukes of Hazzard.
Ooh.
And once that hit me, I was like, I know what I'm doing with this story. They're going to be the barnyard troublemakers that are actually they have good intentions. And the moment I knew that, it all started to come together. So I think that's the magic of having comps and books that you like and authors that you like, and read widely, by the way, because if you read widely, like, I mean, I tend to really just gravitate towards children's novels, but
Hmm.
occasionally I pick up like Terry Pratchett or Douglas Adams. And I'll tell you what, that totally fuels my writing because that sense of humor speaks to me and I weave a little bit of that in. So I've probably like been a little long-winded on that answer, but lean into your comps. That's ultimately what I say. Don't let them stand in your way. That's
Okay,
your
no, no,
power.
no, that's good. No, that's pretty good insight. I mean, that's something I didn't consider. I know I may have to do that. I know I've got different inspirations as far as behind the book that I'm working on, but yeah, having those three comps, I did like that makes perfect sense. I mean, that helps sort of tie everything
Do
together.
you read sci-fi? Like, what's your favorite
Yeah,
sci-fi series?
I read sci-fi. I sort of mix between the two. I'm always like reading a lot of like graphic novels and sci-fi
Mm-hmm.
books. So I the project I'm trying to work on, and I've researched it before, and it's supposed to be like a. I've seen one person do it. I actually picked up their book and read it, and that they're awesome. But it's supposed to be like a graphic. They call it a graphic novella.
Mm-hmm.
So it's sort of like a hybrid between a graphic novel and long form written content.
Yeah.
That's what I'm trying to do.
Very popular in middle grade, by the way,
Okay.
because graphic novels are a great way to get kids who are reluctant readers to pick up a book.
Yeah.
I mean, my kids were reluctant readers and they could flip through those books really fast. They consume them really quickly and it gives them the confidence to read a larger novel. And so actually I had one sitting here just a few minutes ago. I think it was about pigeons. This one might be, no, it's not. Yeah, so where you're essentially writing a novella, right? But it's more heavily illustrated
Yeah.
than like a regular novel, but not as illustrated as a graphic novel. That's
Yes.
what you're talking about?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, those are amazing. I'd be in for it as an adult. I'm like, adults need more pictures in their books. Let's
Yeah.
just be real clear about that.
Yeah. Um, yeah, okay. So that's what I'm trying to that's the format I'm looking for. So that's what I'm trying to I picked up a couple of books that I really love like how they did that. So that's
Those are your comps, man.
yeah,
Those are your comps.
yeah. Uh, so yeah, I know theirs was like a sort of like really heavy, dark sci-fi. Mine's more towards like the. It's almost like it's almost like Blade Runner meets Dune. Um, so
See,
that's
these
the
are
sort
your
of
inspirational comps. You
yeah.
have them. You said you didn't have them. You have
Well, I
them.
I had them, but I was like, well, I mean, those are my inspirations, but like actually like finding like I guess like certain books. But yeah, that's what I'm sort of looking for was like that, you know, that that Dune meets Blade Runner
Hmm.
mixed in with like maybe some superhero is, qualities in there. But so yeah, that's a project that I'm working on. So
Nice.
we'll see. Um, So yeah, I guess this episode's turned into a book coaching software.
I told you I
But
was going to have a real hard time dialing it back.
yeah,
So,
I know. Well, so right now, like you've got, like I said, obviously get a chance to sort of talk about your book a little bit. I want to sort of,
mhm.
I want audiences to sort of know, okay, like you've got these books. Obviously you've been helping people sort of produce their own books. But tell me about your book. Tell me a little bit more about your book.
Well, I was like, which one? The ones I'm
Yeah,
working
yeah.
on right
Which one
now
of them? Maybe
or the
like the
one that's
illustrated.
out?
Which one of the ones you've already had?
So, I have to admit, and like, let's just be clear because this, I think, helps people that haven't broken into the industry yet. When someone has a debut novel, chances are really good it's not the first book that they've written. So my debut novel was the seventh book that I wrote.
Oh wow.
It came out last year, and it was my seventh book. I held back. Now, there are a lot of authors who are self-published who they write a book and they put it out, and what they learn from it, they put into the next book. And if that's how you learn, that's amazing. I could not make myself do that. I think it was my perfectionist streak that I was like, no, 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 it's not ready yet. I think let me just try again. The next one's going to be better. And I'd start to write the next one. I'm like, oh, yep, yep. This one's way better than the first one. I'm just going to put the first one on the burner. I mean, rinse and repeat to
Yeah.
book number seven. I mean, I had some edits come back from developmental editors that made me cry, that made me stop writing. I mean, this is the classic like writer's story, right? Everybody kind of has that. But it took me 8 years and seven books to finally feel like I was there. And so this was my debut book that came out last year. A Little Trouble Goes a Long Way. It's the one that was Charlotte's Web meets The Borrowers meets The Dukes of Hazzard. So you can see, actually,
Yeah.
here's my coffee connection since we're on the Creative Brew. It's I have the coffee can on my desk
That's awesome.
that I got from a thrift shop, the old Judge that became the car in my story. I sent it to my illustrator, who's phenomenal, by the way. His name is Finn Dean. He's a British illustrator, and he saw the vision for the book immediately. So I was so tickled to get to work with somebody so talented. But this one came out in November, and I'm still learning the process. Even with all my connections and all the years I've been swimming in the water, let me just say Amazon has done me wrong, and you still can't buy it on Amazon. So you have to go to Barnes and Noble or Target to get my book. Thanks, Amazon. But, we're figuring it out. And that book was that book was really, really fun to write because I wrote it very specifically for some young kids in our neighborhood. So I live in a neighborhood where we kind of have this feral subset of children that they don't wear shoes. They ride their bikes all over the neighborhood. There's usually a fishing pole on the back. They're going to skip school and they're going to go like they know how to wrestle gators. And so they go swim at the creek and just keep their eyes peeled. And, they've probably picked up a poisonous snake while they're at it. And I wanted to encourage them to pick up a book. And so I used three brothers in the neighborhood as the sort of the basis for my two main characters. And the thing that made me the proudest I think about writing this book was the youngest brother, Turner, has now officially read the book more times than I have. So,
Oh, it's awesome.
yeah, it was, I feel like I did just right, but I've not put a big marketing push behind it. It is self-published because I decided I wanted to own my backlist, and I have a strategy for my author career, and owning my backlist was a big part of it for me. And so, but I'm not going to market it until I have a few more books out. And those are coming this year. So I've got some really cool books that are, I have two that are in the hands of my editor right now.
Mhm.
They're a chapter book series written for very young children. So chapter books are like Junie B. Jones is a chapter book.
Yeah.
So kids that are kindergarten, first, second grade, independent, newly independent readers. Usually they're around 80 pages. They're like yours, sort of highly illustrated, most of them.
Mhm.
If you're watching the video, you can see there's generally quite a few pictures in them. Um, and so this one is based, this is my rough draft copy, just so I could read it and see what it read like on paper. But this one's about a duck from our local wildlife sanctuary who he ended up at the sanctuary because he couldn't stay out of the local grocery store. They kept trying to release him with the rest of the whistling ducks in town, and he kept going right back to the grocery store looking for snacks and wanted to hang out with the people. And so I ended up writing two chapter books about him and turned one of them into a stage play, which I'm talking to the guy that owns the local community theater. They're going to help me put it on. And the idea is to get it into elementary schools. I want to, this is my marketing plan, by the way. You're a marketer. So this is part of how I want to get my books into the hands of kids is I want to write the stage play and then be able to sort of donate the rights to it to fledgling theater programs at elementary schools that they don't have the money to license a regular play, but I'll allow them to license mine with the hope that then the parents will want to buy the books for their kids.
Yeah.
So those two are in the hands of my editor right now, and I'm revising a book that I co-wrote with a friend of mine who works for DreamWorks, and so it's another middle grade portal fantasy, very wacky, wild slapstick, reads like a 20-minute animated television show. So yeah, that's where we are. So
That's wild. That's wild. You know what? And with the with the feral kids, I if it was any other state aside from Florida, I was like, okay, that's wild. But I think that's a normal day in
yeah.
Florida.
I mean, the kids put their surfboards. I can't tell you how many kids I've watched walk out of the high school at school pickup, not wearing shoes. You know, life is a little different down here on the,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
Florida coast. So,
Yeah, I believe that. I believe that.
mhm.
Um, wow, that's awesome, and it's always refreshing to see that, like, some people, it's like, well, I'm trying to get my ideals from, or maybe they feel like I'm feeling stuck on ideals, and like it's sort of weird because it's like you've got these ideals for books like around your vicinity, like,
Everywhere.
and I do feel like, if you're especially for anyone that's in the creative field, you can get ideals from anywhere. I mean, heck, you can get ideals. You probably have ideals for stuff like sort of like just slapping you in your face sometimes.
Hmm.
I
Oh,
for me,
yeah.
like a lot of the digital art and stuff that I create, people ask me, "What's your inspiration?" I was like the walks I go on in the morning, like seeing the
Hmm.
different rocks and the water and the surfers and stuff is like anytime that I see like little landscapes like that, like I automatically think of like a trailer for a movie or something like that. And I was like, so I
Hmm.
just start taking pictures of everything, and I'll use them for references. But yeah, I'm always getting ideas, even like ideas for like characters. We've got so many,
Yeah.
especially out here. It's just like a wide, diverse group of just different people, backgrounds, and
Yeah.
so yeah, I get all my inspiration just people watching and
Oh,
wanting to
God.
hear and
just the stories that your kids bring home from school sometimes is enough to
Yeah.
sort of like fuel you. And I'm currently outlining a book because this is what happens, right? When you realize you get knee deep into creative writing, sometimes it's really hard to just focus on one idea at a time because you're bombarded with inspiration.
Yeah.
And I like to try and have something in because you have the planning, you have the drafting, you have the editing, and then you have everything that happens in post, right? And so I kind of like to have one project in each section as long as I can keep myself focused enough to finish it. That's the key. You have to finish things. You have to finish the ding dong book. Like I always say at work, just finish the ding dong book, everybody. Um, but I have one that I just started outlining a couple weeks ago, and it's actually based, I mean, it's funny if you listen to the core of an idea sometimes and then you see what comes out of it. It's amazing like the evolution of what happens. And I have this book that was inspired my daughter's she's a teenager and she's been friends with another little girl in the neighborhood for many years. And she really likes this kid, but politically, the families are very different. And the kids, I think, have been hesitant to become friends because they parrot, you know, the parents' political beliefs.
Yeah.
And I have said to my kid time and time again, like, listen, you guys have to think for yourself and you have to make your own choices. And if you like this kid and she thinks differently from you, like that's going to have to be okay. This is how the country heals. Like this is a lesson that the adults haven't learned that the kids need to learn. Like
Hmm.
this is how we change. And this is why I think this is why I write for kids. Is because I feel like I'm sorry, the adults are too far gone to teach them anything at this point. Like we got to start fresh with the next generation. So I've had that like weighing on me for a really long time. And so I started with some comps, like we just talked about. I knew I wanted to write something that read like Ronya the Robber's Daughter, which the lady who wrote Pippi Longstocking, Astrid Lindgren, wrote another book, Ronya the Robber's Daughter, about a band of robbers that live in the woods that can't get along with another band of robbers that live in the woods, right? So already it's kind of all fitting into play. And the Boxcar Children was another one that I loved, which was, the kids that like left their grandfather because he was mean and they lived in an old boxcar in the woods on their own. Like, what kid doesn't want to live on their own in a boxcar in the woods? I'm like, let's put all these ideas together and see where they take you. And as I started planning this story and thinking about the plot, right? Because the characters, they always come to me first, like you. Like, I've got all this inspiration for these characters. What's the plot going to be that pushes these characters to learn the lesson that they need to learn? So I start pulling all these little pieces. I want it to take place in a Scandinavian forest. Now, I don't live in a Scandinavian forest. I've never been to Scandinavia. There's a little bit of research that's involved in this one. Kind of a low fantasy story. Like I know I want that, but what can I have these characters do that's going to push them? And so I ended up creating two points of view, two very different characters that come from very different worlds. One is a scavenger, and she's been taught to just take what she needs, but only what she needs, and you mind your own business and you don't call attention to yourself. And the other kid is the son of a logger who thinks that the world is either right or wrong. It's black and white, and that's it. There's no shade of gray. And so when they meet up in the woods, there's tension because he calls her a thief and thinks she's bad, but she's never been taught that what she's doing is bad. That's how she lives. And so I've finally, I think, orchestrated the pieces of the plot that are going to push both children into realizing the beliefs that they inherited from their parents are not necessarily the ones that serve them in the people that they want to become. So see, I get all choked up talking about this.
Yeah. I mean, it's, yeah, there's always that. that's I mean that's good. That's enlightening to hear. I mean, that's refreshing to hear because like people need, especially children,
Yeah.
you know, they only know what they know.
Hmm.
And being able to for them to be able to maybe have their own insights on things. I mean, because it's either that or you model from your parents. And if you
Oh, yeah.
model the things that have kept us separated, then that's what they inherit, that's what they learn. That's
Hmm.
what they see as normal. So yeah, I think being able to put out stories like that, I think it's needed. And I think there's stories that people are meant to write. And so yeah, I mean, for something like that, I'm sure that's near and dear to your heart. And that's I think that's something that does need to come out in the physical world in some form or fashion. But I do think that story could help a lot of people.
But I've always been this firm believer that kids' literature is just as deep and just as meaningful as adult literature. I
Mhm.
mean, sometimes it's silly and sometimes it's fun. Um, but kids think deeply and they're paying attention.
Yes.
They're paying attention to everything around them. And so, you know, when you read this story, I think in the end, which by the way, the working title is Thick as Thieves, and the spot in the woods that I'm calling this, spot in the Scandinavian forest, the thick, because you have a thick of trees. And there was something about that title that just spoke to me. But in the end, when you read it, I mean, there's nothing political in it. There's nothing preachy in it. It's two kids clashing in the woods, but the idea came from this interaction that is built over the years that I've watched unfold right in front of my eyes. And I think that's a writer's superpower in a lot of ways, is being able to take what's happening in life and putting it in a sci-fi environment, in a fantasy environment, making it look totally different. Somebody said to me once, "Why don't you write a book about Cleveland, Tennessee?" I was like, "Why?"
There is a yeah, there's a lot of stories that could be
I'm
made.
like, trust me, it all seeps in one way or another. It's just not called Cleveland, Tennessee. That's a
Yeah,
little too on the nose for me.
yeah.
So,
Shout out to Cleveland. Shout out to
shout
Cleveland.
out to Cleveland. Go Raiders.
Oh Lord. Yeah, I think one day I'm sure someone make a book series about based on Cleveland, Tennessee. I'm sure it'll be a book series out one day on
Oh
that.
God, we've probably got stories between the two of us, but we probably shouldn't tell them while they're being recorded
Yeah,
to protect the innocent, right?
yeah, yeah. That might be on
So,
a bonus episode, a bonus. And like I said, if you're interested, for anyone that's interested, bonus content and episodes will be available on www.buymeacoffee.com/ the creative brew. And for the price of a cup of coffee, give or take inflation, you can help support this episode with me and Abby, as well as other future episodes. So I want to give that quick PSA there. So right now, I mean, like, what are you're always, and I know for me, I'm always like I said, there's always an
mhm.
input of just ideals or just things that I'm constantly working on. For you, like what keeps you inspired?
Besides just life, I think the one of the things that I really love, not to get myself too distracted from the hard work that is writing a book, because writing a book is something that takes a really, really long time. And I mean, I've always really liked creative things that are very tedious and take a really long time, but I actually just signed up to take a class. Now, this will fill my creative bucket in a weird way. I signed up to take a class with Helen Dardick, who is an illustrator and a watercolor painter.
Mm,
And I love her work. And I am a terrible painter and a terrible drawer, says the lady that used to teach painting and drawing at Cleveland High School. But I am very out of practice, is really what it boils down to. And I am dying. I'm going to start it this weekend. I actually have right here on my desk my Japanese watercolor set that's just like the one that she uses that I'm going to dive in, and I'm just going to make some really, really bad art this weekend.
That's
And that
awesome.
is going to fuel my creativity. And when I sit back down to writing, I think sometimes it's like, well, I got that out of my system, but also I think I'm better at writing. So let me
Yeah,
focus.
yeah. You know what, and you know what, that I think that's really good because, like, people sometimes feel like they need to stay in their lanes, and I'm
Yeah.
one of those where I quick shout out to my my uncle Howard, but for me, I always see myself as a like a mad scientist that happens to be in the arts. And
Yeah.
like I love experimenting. Like I am curious about everything. I know I'm actually working on a brand identity project with a startup biotech company, and I'm creating the visual identity and everything. And we were talking about like neurons and DNA and stem cells, and I was like, and I love that stuff. And so we had a conversation about that, but um, yeah, it's just one of those, like, just being curious, like
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
you make bad art, you make bad art, and if it's not for you, then like, hey, I'm really good at writing. I know what I'm gonna. I'm just gonna go.
But the only way to make better art is to make bad art
Oh
first.
yeah, yeah.
So, I mean, you just have to jump in. So funny that you say that about neurons and biology and whatnot, because I married a physicist. And very early on in our relationship, we had this conversation where I don't remember what he said, but I looked at him and he was like, do you even know what an ion is? And I looked at him and I said, do you know when Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel ceiling? And he said, no. And I was like, well, touche. I was like, there you go. But I love it because I always said physics is hard. And he's like, art is hard. And I'm like, well, just acknowledge that what the other one does is hard. I like it. So thank God for physicists. Thank
Yeah.
God for artists.
Yep.
So takes all kinds.
Yeah, very glad I'm not down there. I would have been having a conversation with him about all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, I'm glad he's at work right now and
Yeah.
not behind me because he would have jumped right in. So,
Um, so right now, some creative tips. What are some
Mhm.
good creative tips for our listeners?
Ooh, well, I mean, we just covered one. Make some bad art. Try something new. And I think that's a huge one. And, you know, it's so funny. Like, God, I'm probably going to kick myself for saying this one about breaking the rules. Um, but let me back it up. You got to learn the rules in order to break them. Like that was the whole Pablo Picasso thing, right? I mean,
Hmm.
if you look at the stuff he painted when he was like 13, I mean, it was pretty realistic and pretty spot on, but he listened to his voice and he broke the rules on purpose. And there are so many people that I encounter who break the rules just to break them willy-nilly. Or they don't want to learn them in the first place and they want to do their own thing, which is great, which is fine. And if that fills your bucket and you're not trying to sell your book, do it up. Don't let anybody stop you. But if you're trying to sell your work, right, and you're going to break a rule, make sure you're doing it on purpose for a reason, because that's going to produce stronger art than I just did it because it felt good and I wanted to,
Hmm.
you know? So I'm a huge proponent of figuring out what it is you're trying to say before you try and say it. Um, I mean, not that you can't create art and then look back on it and be like, oh yeah, that was what I was thinking about while I made it. I mean, there's always going to be some of that that comes out, but so once upon a time, like before I started working on content marketing for a novel software company, I was actually the education director at a not-for-profit community arts center down here in Florida.
Hmm.
Huge 3-building campus. We were like a community college for fine arts. I mean, it was great. And I was over all of the education programs. So there were like 70 instructors, 3 departments. And we saw so many artists that came in, and all they wanted to do was like fling paint on the walls. And I'm like, great. So why are you flinging paint on the wall? And they didn't know. They didn't know what they were trying to say. And so I'm like, if you're doing it because it feels good, right? Then lean into it and let that be what it is that you're trying to do with your art, right? But be aware that that's what it is that you're trying to do so that you can then take it to the next level.
Yeah.
Like, I just think there needs to be an awareness, and maybe that comes a little with maturity when it comes to creating. I mean, I think a lot of us, especially as kids, we do art because we like art, Maybe we're good at it, maybe we're not. I don't know, were you like, not to ask you another question, I know. I was like, turning on you. Were you good at art when you were young? I mean, like we were in art classes together, but did you gravitate towards art classes because you were naturally talented, or did you like it and you had to learn how to do it? Which way were you?
Yeah, I was already naturally talented.
Okay,
Yeah,
I was
I started
not.
drawing really early. I think my mom, or I think my grandma or my mom, like I remember them having like my very first like illustration like in kindergarten. But I knew I was like really serious when I was probably about first or second grade, and I started drawing like full like I was always big in like GI Joe and He-Man and stuff, but I was drawing
Hmm.
those type of characters, and I was just like fascinated. I was already reading comic books and stuff like that around that age, and sort of fascinated by that. And that was I already knew like I wanted to be in the creative field in some way, either a comic book
Yeah.
artist or something. But that was like what I wanted to do. And so yeah, I was like, yeah, really young. I was already sort of naturally talented. Obviously, I definitely learning through the years. But yeah, I was always one of those that was like I was already like trying to create stories and creating characters. And my mom, she was like real big in like the crafts part. So she showed me how to make like all kinds of like shadow boxes and paper
Oh,
mache
that's cool.
structures. And so she already had me on that, as far as helping me out on that end. And then my uncle, he was helping me as far as with actual anatomy and
Hmm.
drawing certain things. And so you already had that I was already leaning towards that really, really early.
See, not me. I was terrible at it. I knew I had something I wanted to say, but I didn't have the skills to say it, and I had to learn them. And so, I mean, Martha Kidwell, shout out to Martha Kidwell,
Yep. Shout out
man.
Miss Kidwell.
Oh, she was the best. And I was so afraid to take her class. I was so afraid that I didn't take it in ninth grade, even though I had loved Mary Brown's middle school class, art class at Cleveland Junior High School. It was Cleveland Junior High School back then. It wasn't even the middle school. So I loved it, but Martha Kidwell scared me because everyone said how hard it was and how hard and strict she was. And um, but I really wanted to take it. And so in 10th grade, I signed up for art. And about 3 weeks in, I was like, why was I afraid of this little old lady? She's the best,
Oh,
like,
yeah, I love Miss Kidwell. That yeah, shout out to her too.
oh my
That is
God.
a big inspiration for a lot of my stuff is Miss Kidwell. I know she
Hmm.
even like the art history aspect of it behind a
Yes.
lot of things like that was what sort of drove me to keep pursuing the arts was like
Hmm.
having an understanding of history and inspiration. I know for me like even like a lot of I do a lot of digital art, but my inspiration, like the way I even process everything, I'm a hardcore Da Vinci fan. Like I loved him as just the
Yeah.
inventor, just someone that he was just a creator. Like he created all these different things, and that is my inspiration for everything that I do. So I'm really big on art history.
But I was really bad at art when I started, and I probably should have given up. And I think if I had had certain teachers out there, I would have given up. But she
Mhm.
didn't let me give up. She pushed me past the make bad art to get to the point where you make good art. So I think that's, to me, that's the magic combination is you figure out what the hell it is you're trying to say in the first place so that you can really figure out the best way to put that down on paper. Or, I mean, let's face it, not not every like act of creativity is something visual, right? I mean, you have song, you have music, you have
Mhm.
dance, you have acting. Um, okay, some of that is visual because you do have to watch people dance, but I mean, it feels good as the dancer to do the
Oh
dancing,
yeah.
you know. So, I mean, even I'm gonna throw this out there. Sports. You have an energy that you have to get out into the world somehow. You want to express yourself.
Hmm.
And some people do that through sports. I mean, some people do that through protesting and yelling and screaming. Like you have something, everybody has something they're trying to say.
Yeah.
How are you going to say it? So that, and you just got to be prepared to do it badly first, which I imagine sports is kind of the same way. At
Oh
least
yeah.
me
Yep.
playing sports is definitely that way. So,
No, that's the truth. And it's pretty cool that you just said that because for a while, I used to separate all the things that I did. Like I did sports and I'm an artist and I am a husband and a dad and a granddad, like all these things like separated. And like now, the more that I really deep dive into a lot of the work and maybe just the reasoning on why I do a lot of stuff is I see everything as just the extension of
hmm
creativity. Like
hmm
my coaching and my wrestling, it is extent like I want people to be creative. I want people to express their creativity through, martial arts or through wrestling or through sports or even through cooking. Doesn't
Yeah.
matter.
Creative problem solving,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. So yeah, I've stopped saying, hey, I'm this and that. Like, no, I'm a creator, and how
hmm
I express that can be in different, faculties or, expressions. But I think when people sort of see that as like, hey, all this stuff is just, it's
Yeah.
still just one avenue. You're just expressing it in different branches.
hmm
I think that's where, for me, that's where I'm able to connect the dots on a lot of different
Yeah.
things. I know it helps me out, but
Same. Same. So,
well, you know what? This has been a really cool episode. Before we sign off,
yeah.
what are some words of wisdom? Maybe something that right now, because it is a crazy world right now. What's something
Yeah.
that people need to hear that's maybe on your heart that people will resonate to?
I mean, maybe just one word, grace. I mean, I think we got to give ourselves grace. We've got to give each other grace.
Yeah,
Um, you know, I we've talked about we're trying to take like a lot of social media and the news and things. Sometimes like I just want to wipe it off my phone and I feel like, oh, that's a little irresponsible. But I'm just trying to give everybody around me grace because we're all trying to navigate this super crazy world. And at the same time, still create and put good stuff out in it.
yeah,
And sometimes that's hard. And I feel like we get beaten down and discouraged super easily.
yeah,
And so give yourself grace and patience to create something good, put it out in this world because I think that's the only way we're going to change things,
yeah, yep.
one at a time. So, and like I said, sorry, adults, you're far beyond my reach. I'm focusing on the kids. So,
Yeah, that's yeah. You want to change a generation. You get the kids
yep,
first. Uh,
yep.
you get the kids
It's a
first.
slow burn, but
Yeah.
it'll get there. So,
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I like that. That's something that a lot of people need to hear. We say it, but a lot of people, they don't act on that. We
mhm,
say, hey, I want to be a good person or a good such and such, and then you get out there and you can't even respect the person
Hmm.
that lives right beside you, despite
Yeah.
any kind of background or personal history or political views or whatever. I always say it. I don't that's a lane that I personally don't try to jump into, but I always see everyone, and maybe it's just the weird way that I see the world. Um, is are you a good human? I could
Hmm.
I could literally care less about anything else. If I come up to you and I open up the door for you, if we're walking, we're going to a grocery store and I open up the door, I could care less what your political view is. Like
Yeah.
I want to be a good human. I'm just opening the door up for you.
Same.
Hope you have a great day. It's just sometimes people, they take, or maybe they see the world, and they use that as a maybe as a filter for what they feel like is going on in their lives. And I think that's something that I've mentioned actually in my adult wrestling class, and talking to them about just like you can't control the world. I mean, I think a lot of people are like, I want to do this. You can't control the outside world. There's a lot
Yeah.
of stuff going on, but you can control your inner world, how you see it.
And how you act.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe reading the right books. Heck, maybe some of these adults, maybe they need to go back in reverse and like read some of the books that you got out, and sort of. I mean, it's just a lot of times it's just unlearning certain things, and it's like relearning.
Yeah.
And like, well, I used to have these clear eyes. That's something I want to make sure especially with children, like keep those clear eyes, and being able to see the world for what it could be, and having the courage to be the ones that's willing to help change it for the better.
Heal the breach.
Yeah,
So,
yep,
yeah.
yeah, that's great. That's great. Um,
Creeping into my stuff these days. So,
yeah, it's yeah, I try to put it. Yeah, there's some things I try to put in a lot of my illustrations and work and stuff. I'm always communicating ideals. There's always a hidden message in there somewhere.
mhm.
Um, so right now, what's the best way to maybe get in touch with you? Maybe if someone is like,
Yeah, yeah.
I'm trying to start a new book, or they want to get a book from you. Like what is the best way to maybe get in touch with you?
So I have two ways that you can find me. I do have a website. It's Abby Mathews, Mathews with one T, so Mathews .org. If you go to abbymathews.com, you'll find somebody who does like web development, and I don't know what that is. So, I mean, I know what it is, but I don't do it. That's not me. It's the wrong Abby. So abbymathews.org. And that's where you can find my book, you can find blurbs about what I'm writing next, you can find other podcasts and things that I've been on. But you can also find me. I'm the community manager for Dabble Writer. So Dabble Writer is the software company, and we have a free online community for writers. DabbleU Campus is what we call it. But on the Dabble website, you can find links to the free community there. And I'm there all day, every day, man. That's my job. So we're there talking about writing. And actually, I do like a live coffee hour every Wednesday that people can just pop in and chat. And sometimes we talk about writing, sometimes we talk about plants, sometimes we talk about our cats, like a lot of Dungeons and Dragons talk that goes on. But you can come and chat with me then. All of that's in the W Campus community. So anyway, that's how you can find me.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome.
So
Heck, I might have to jump in there.
you come by. I'll book coach you in
Yes,
front of
I,
all
I
my
need a book
friends.
coach. I need a book coach because this story has to come out. I need a book coach. So this has been a really cool episode. Thank you, Abby, for coming on to the show. A quick
Thanks
shout
for
out
having me.
to my sponsors for this. Baba Coffee, based out here in Carlsbad, California, smuggling good vibes and good coffee. They've been an awesome sponsor for the show. If you're out here in the area, they have live music and food throughout the weekends. You can check them out at babacoffee.com. Another one, Elevate Coffee Trading, extracting hope with every drop of coffee. A lot of their proceeds go to helping coffee producing countries like Guatemala and areas in need in the Dallas, Texas area. They've been a great partner for the show. And like I said, I know I'm actually, we do some different partnership stuff. So I'll actually be doing a virtual talk with some kids here in March at their one of the
Nice.
elementary schools in Dallas. So that's something I've been doing with them for a couple of years now. So it's been really cool, inspiring young minds. And
Nice.
so you can check them out at elevatecoffeetrading.com. They got subscriptions if you want to get some of their coffee. I get their coffee all the time. It's awesome. And then we got last sponsor, Resonant Sciences. They're an aerospace company based out of Dayton, Ohio. The president is actually a former alumni.
Oh,
So yeah, they are bridging the engineering with creativity. So if you're interested, maybe you're in the engineering field and maybe you want to get something, you want to start something new or start maybe get around some like-minded people. They actually have positions open at some of their different satellite offices. You can go to resonantsciences.com for more information. They're always looking to disrupt conventions. So those are my sponsors for the show today. And once again, thank you, Abby, for jumping onto the show. You're going to be my book coach. I'm going to have to send you some stuff. I'll be sending you
yes.
some emails really soon. This is what I got. So this is the Creative Brew with me, your host, Quantel, with Abby. And this is the Creative Brew. Be creative, stay inspired. We gotta come together now, cause I had enough. The time is now, there'll never be another one. It's a second lap.